At Thanksgiving, my sister said I'd never afford a house like her own, so I handed her the keys to the mansion they were partying in that I just bought. Hi everyone. Before we dive in, show some love by subscribing and commenting where in the world you're joining us from. Alright, let's get back to the story. The text from my sister Vanessa came through at 9 p.m. on a Tuesday. Family Thanksgiving at the estate this year. Try to dress appropriately for once. No hello. No, how are you? Just that cutting reminder that I'd never measure up. I stared at my phone screen in my modest apartment, the yellow walls suddenly feeling like they were closing in. My cat, Smokey, rubbed against my leg as if sensing the knot forming in my stomach. I should have declined right then. But something in me, that stubborn part that Mama used to call my fighting spirit before she passed, made me type back, "I'll be there." The three dots appeared, disappeared, then nothing. Classic Vanessa. She'd gotten what she wanted. Another opportunity to parade her perfect life in front of the family disappointment. You see, in my family, success wasn't measured by character or kindness. It was measured in square footage and car brands. Vanessa had married Marcus, a corporate attorney with family money, right out of college. They'd bought their first house at 23. Meanwhile, I'd spent my 20s working 3 jobs, putting myself through nursing school, and saving every penny I could scrape together. "This year will be different," I whispered to Smokey, though I didn't believe it myself. How could it be? I was still just Maya, the little sister who worked night shifts at the hospital, drove a 10-year-old sedan, and apparently couldn't dress appropriately for family functions. I pulled out my laptop and looked at my bank account one more time, just to remind myself that my sacrifices had meant something, even if my family couldn't see it. Vanessa's house sat on 2 acres in the most exclusive gated community in the county. The driveway alone was longer than my entire apartment building. As I pulled up in my Honda that Thursday afternoon, I could see the judgment in the valet's eyes. Yes, Vanessa had hired a valet for Thanksgiving. Because of course she had. "Why, you made it." My brother Jerome called from the grand entrance, drink already in hand, though it wasn't even 3 p.m. He'd flown in from his tech job out west, another golden child in the family success story. His hug was genuine, at least. Jerome had always been kind to me, even if he never stood up when others weren't. Inside, the house was a showpiece of marble and crystal. Family photos lined the walls. Professional shots of Vanessa and Marcus, their 2 perfect children, our late mother at various family gatherings. I noticed I was missing from most of them. Cut out, cropped out, or simply not invited to the original events. My chest tightened, but I forced a smile. "Maya, darling, you're here." Aunt Carol's voice dripped with false sweetness. "Still at the hospital, I hear? Such noble work. We can't all marry well, can we?" He punctuated this with a laugh that made my skin crawl. Around the room, cousins I barely knew mingled with Vanessa's wealthy friends, all dressed like they'd stepped out of a country club catalog. I smoothed down my simple black dress, suddenly hyper-aware of its off-the-rack origins. Then I remembered the envelope in my purse. The one I'd been carrying for 3 weeks, waiting for the right moment. Maybe today wouldn't be so different after all. Vanessa swept into the foyer wearing designer everything, her highlight catching the chandelier light. "Maya came. How quaint you look." She air-kissed near my cheeks without actually making contact. "Come, let me give you the tour. I know you've never seen a house like this." She wasn't wrong, but not for the reasons she thought. As we walked through the sprawling rooms, Vanessa narrated every expensive detail. The imported Italian tile, the custom cabinetry, the wine cellar that cost more than most people's cars. I let her talk, remembering a different time. When Mama got sick, really sick, it was me who took the night shifts by her hospital bed. Me who held her hand through the pain. Vanessa had visited twice in those final 3 months, both times complaining about the parking. "Maya, you're the nurse," she'd said once. "You're equipped for this. I have the children to think about." What she'd meant was, your time is less valuable than mine. Your grief is smaller because your life is smaller. Even at Mama's funeral, Vanessa had turned it into a social event, networking with mourners while I sat alone in the front pew, shattered. "This is my favorite room," Vanessa announced, breaking my reverie. We stood in a sunroom overlooking a pool that sparkled like diamonds. Marcus and I designed it ourselves. Well, we hired a designer, obviously, but we supervised. Not everyone has the vision for this kind of investment. I thought of my apartment where every piece of furniture told a story of overtime shifts and careful budgeting. Where Mama's quilt lay across my bed, the only inheritance she'd left besides debt. It's beautiful, I said honestly. Really beautiful. Vanessa beamed, missing the sadness in my voice entirely. The dining room table could seat 20, and today it held 15 family members plus Marcus's business partners. I'd been placed at the far end, near the children's table, while Vanessa held court at the head. Dad sat beside her, beaming with pride at his successful eldest daughter. He caught my eye once and offered a weak smile before looking away. It hadn't always been like this. When we were little, Dad used to call me his sweet Maya girl. But somewhere along the line, after Mama got sick, after the medical bills piled up, after Vanessa's wedding showed him what success looked like, his affection had cooled into polite distance. I'd become a reminder of struggle while Vanessa represented triumph. Let's go around and say what we're thankful for, Vanessa announced, tapping her crystal wine glass. The sound rang through the room like a bell. I'll start. I'm thankful for Marcus, for our beautiful children, and for this house that we've worked so hard to build. For family, of course. She gestured vaguely around the table. And for the opportunity to share our blessings with those less fortunate. I felt my jaw clench. Less fortunate. As if I'd lost some cosmic lottery rather than choosing a career saving lives over chasing money. As if my worth could be measured by the price tag on my clothes or the zip code of my address. Jerome went next, thankfully keeping it simple. Then Aunt Carol, who managed to humble brag about her recent cruise. The tributes continued around the table, each person performing gratitude like a rehearsed speech. When it reached me, every eye turned my way, some curious, others pitying. I'm thankful for Mama, I said quietly, and for the lessons she taught me about what really matters. The silence that followed was deafening. Vanessa's smile tightened. Well, that's lovely, Maya. Though I wish you'd move on. Mama wouldn't want you dwelling in the past, staying stuck in that little apartment, never progressing. She said it sweetly, but the room heard the blade beneath the sugar. When was the last time you even went on a date? Or bought yourself something nice? Life is for living, not just surviving. My face burned. Across the table, Jerome shifted uncomfortably. Dad studied his plate. No one spoke up. No one ever did. I'm doing fine, I managed. I have a good job. I help people. That means something. Of course it does. Aunt Carol chimed in, though her tone suggested otherwise. We're all very proud of your dedication. But Vanessa has a point, dear. You work so hard, and for what? You can't even afford to travel to enjoy life. When Vanessa was your age, she already had her starter home. Marcus cleared his throat, clearly uncomfortable with where this was heading, but Vanessa was on a roll. I worry about you, Maya. I really do. Living paycheck to paycheck, no husband, no prospects. You're 32 years old. Don't you want more? Don't you want what I have? She spread her arms, gesturing to the opulent room, the designer dress, the life she'd built or married into, depending on how you looked at it. This didn't happen by accident. Marcus and I made smart choices. We invested wisely. We didn't waste our 20s on. She paused, searching for the word, noble poverty. Something inside me cracked. Not broke, cracked. Like a fault line forming before an earthquake. I could feel it shifting, my carefully maintained composure starting to fracture. My hands trembled slightly as I reached for my water glass. Pass the rolls, please, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. Vanessa blinked, thrown off by my non-reaction. But I could see it in her eyes, she wasn't done with me yet. The meal continued with forced normalcy. Turkey was carved, sides were passed, and conversation drifted to safer topics. The children's private school achievements, Jerome's latest promotion, Marcus's golf handicap. I ate mechanically, tasting nothing, my mind racing through memories I'd tried to bury. Remember when Maya wanted to be a doctor? Aunt Carol suddenly announced, her wine glass empty for the third time. What happened with that, dear? Couldn't handle medical school. I set down my fork carefully. I chose nursing. I wanted to spend more time with patients, not just diagnose them and move on. How selfless, Vanessa said, and the sarcasm was barely veiled now. Though I suppose medical school is quite expensive. Not everyone has the resources. She dabbed her mouth with a linen napkin. Or the support system. Marcus's parents helped us with our down payment, you know. Family investing in family. That's how generational wealth works. My father shifted in his seat. We both knew where this was going. When I'd asked for help with nursing school tuition, Dad had said the money was tied up in investments. 2 months later, he'd gifted Vanessa $50,000 toward her wedding. Your sister's marrying well, he'd explained when I found out. It's a smart investment in the family's future. Actually, I said, my voice cutting through the table chatter. I paid for nursing school myself. Every single dollar. Took me longer, but I did it. No loans, no debt. Just work. How admirable, Vanessa cooed. And now you're, what? Still renting that apartment in the old neighborhood? The one with the broken elevator. The table went quiet again. Even the children sensed the tension, their chatter fading to whispers. The elevator works fine, I said evenly, though it didn't. I'd climbed 6 flights of stairs just that morning. Vanessa leaned back in her chair, wine glass in hand, and I saw it. That look. The one that said she was about to go for the kill. Maya, honey, I'm saying this because I love you. Vanessa's voice carried across the silent table. You need to face reality. You will never afford a house like this. You will never have what I have. And that's okay. Not everyone is meant for this kind of success. Some people are meant to serve, to help, to support those of us who achieve more. The crack inside me widened into a canyon. My vision actually blurred for a moment, rage and hurt swirling together into something I couldn't name. I looked around the table, at my father's downcast eyes, at Aunt Carol's satisfied smirk, at Jerome's pained expression, at the cousins who watched like this was dinner theater. You're right, I said softly, standing up. My chair scraped against the marble floor. I will never afford a house like this. Vanessa smiled triumphantly, vindication washing over her features. I'm glad you're finally accepting. Because I already own one that's bigger. The words dropped like a bomb. You could have heard a pin drop. Vanessa's smile froze, then melted into confusion. Excuse me. I reached into my purse and pulled out the envelope I'd been carrying. My hands were steady now, powered by something stronger than anger. Inside were keys and a deed. This house. The one we're sitting in right now. I bought it 3 weeks ago. You've been renting it from the previous owner who sold it to me when he relocated. Your lease ends in 30 days. Vanessa's face went from tan to pale to crimson in seconds. That's not your lying. Marcus, tell her she's lying. But Marcus had gone completely white. You're Maya Johnson? He whispered. The buyer was listed as M. Johnson Properties. I handled the paperwork myself but never met. Oh God. The truth hit the table like a physical wave. I set the keys down gently in front of my sister, who stared at them like they were poison. How? She breathed. How is this possible? Let me tell you a story, I said, still standing while the entire table gaped at me. Remember when Mama got sick? When everyone was too busy to help, too important to take shifts at the hospital. I was there. Every night after my day shifts, I was there. My voice didn't shake. It was crystalline clear, powered by years of held-back truth. And Mama, in those final months, she was lucid. She told me things. Like how she'd been buying property since the 70s, little houses in neighborhoods everyone said would never appreciate. How she'd paid them off one by one, never telling Dad because he would have gambled it away or made investments in Vanessa's lifestyle. Dad's face confirmed it. The gambling problem he thought no one knew about. Vanessa looked between us, her perfect facade cracking. She left it all to me, I continued. 23 properties. Not in her will, she knew that would get contested. She'd already transferred them years before, little by little, into a trust with my name on it. She told me on her deathbed, don't tell them until you're ready. Don't let them make you feel small for being smart. I picked up my water glass with a steady hand. I've spent the last 5 years managing those properties, renovating them, flipping some, keeping others as rentals. I built an empire while working night shifts and eating ramen. While you all pitied me, I was building what Mama started. Aunt Carol's mouth opened and closed like a fish. Jerome's eyes were wide with something between shock and admiration. My father looked like he might be sick. The apartment I live in, I own the building. The broken elevator is being renovated as we speak, along with a full modernization that'll triple the property value. That old Honda is paid off and I own 3 others. But I liked that one. Vanessa finally found her voice. You let me. Mock me? Belittle me? Yes, I did. Because I wanted to see who you really were. This can't be real. Vanessa's voice cracked. She grabbed the papers I'd laid on the table, scanning them with shaking hands. The deed was legitimate, notarized, official. Her name appeared nowhere on it. Marcus fixed this. Tell her there's some mistake. The lease. The lease is real, Marcus said quietly, his lawyer brain already processing the implications. We've been paying rent to the Whitmore Estate Management Company, which apparently... He looked at me with something like awe. You own? I do. And I've been a fair landlord. You've maintained the property beautifully, by the way. The landscaping improvements you made actually increased the value by $30,000, so thank you. Jerome let out a breathless laugh. Maya. Holy shit. Maya. Language. Aunt Carol snapped automatically, but her heart wasn't in it. She looked at me like she was seeing a stranger. Your mother never said anything. Not a word. I'm her sister and she never. She knew exactly who to trust, I said simply. The person who showed up. The person who cared more about holding her hand than preserving her image. Dad finally spoke, his voice rough. Maya, baby girl, I didn't know. If I'd known about the properties, you would have taken them. Like you took her jewelry to buy Vanessa's wedding flowers. Like you took her car to trade in for Jerome's graduation present. Mama knew. She protected what she'd built from everyone except the one person who never asked her for anything. The words hurt him. I could see it. But they were true and we both knew it. Vanessa stood abruptly, her chair toppling backward. So what, you've been playing some sick game? Letting us feel superior while you laughed at us. I wasn't laughing, I said, and my voice finally broke just a little. I was breaking. Every holiday, every gathering, every casual cruelty. I was shattering inside while trying to honor Mama's memory by being better than the pettiness. But today, I continued, looking directly at Vanessa. Today you crossed a line. Telling me I'd never have what you have, that I'm meant to serve people like you. That wasn't just mean, Vanessa. That was revealing. You showed me exactly who you've become and Mama would be heartbroken. Tears streamed down Vanessa's face now, but they looked more like panic than remorse. You can't evict us. We have children. This is their home. You wouldn't. Your lease ends in 30 days. I'm not renewing it. That's not eviction, that's business. My voice was calm, factual. I've already had my lawyers draw up the notices. You'll receive them Monday. This is cruel. Aunt Carol stood, pointing at me with a shaking finger. You're being vindictive and cruel, Maya Johnson. Your mother raised you better than this. Did she? I turned to her. Because she also raised Vanessa. And you helped, didn't you, Aunt Carol? Teaching her that worth is measured in designer labels and square footage. That kindness is weakness and ambition means stepping on whoever's beneath you. I looked around the table at all of them. I'm not being cruel. I'm being done. Done with being the punchline. Done with being the family disappointment when I've accomplished more through actual work than any of you through luck or marriage. Done pretending that blood makes you family when you've never treated me like I belong. Jerome stood slowly. Maya, I'm sorry. I should have said something. All those times I should have stood up for you. Yes, you should have. I met his eyes. But you were comfortable. Speaking up would have made things awkward. It's easier to watch someone drown than risk getting wet yourself. He flinched but nodded. At least he had the decency to accept it. My father remained seated, aged 10 years and 10 minutes. What do you want from us? Nothing, I said and meant it. I don't want your approval or your apology or your suddenly convenient pride. I wanted it years ago. No. I just want peace. Marcus found his voice, the lawyer in him searching for angles. Maya, be reasonable. We can negotiate. The market rate for a house like this has increased significantly. We'll pay more we can. I don't need your money, Marcus. I said it kindly because unlike Vanessa, he'd never been openly cruel. Just complicit. I'm converting this property into a hospice care facility. The permits are already filed. It's what Mama would have wanted. A place where people can die with dignity, surrounded by beauty, with nurses who actually care. Vanessa made it sound like a wounded animal. You're doing this to hurt me. To humiliate me in front of my friends, my family. Everything I've built. You built nothing. The words exploded out of me, finally, the dam breaking. You married money. You performed success. But you built nothing with your own hands, your own sacrifice. You don't even know what it costs to build something real because someone has always handed you the foundation. I grabbed my purse, my hands shaking now, the adrenaline catching up. I bought this house because it was a good investment. I invited myself to Thanksgiving because I was tired of being excluded. I waited to tell you because I needed to know. I needed to see if any of you would choose me over Image just once. And we didn't, Jerome said quietly. It wasn't a question. No, you didn't. I looked at my father. Not even you, Dad. Especially not you. He opened his mouth, closed it. What could he say? We both knew he'd chosen Vanessa's shine over my substance years ago. Made peace with it even. It was easier to love the child who made him look good than the one who reminded him of his failures. I'll have my lawyers contact you about the transition timeline, I said, heading toward the door. You'll have 60 days, not 30. Because unlike you, I'm not cruel. Just done. Maya, wait. Vanessa's voice stopped me at the threshold. I turned back. Vanessa stood in the wreckage of her perfect Thanksgiving, mascara running, hands shaking. For a moment, I saw my sister again. The girl who used to braid my hair before school, who taught me to ride a bike, who promised we'd always be best friends. Before life got complicated. Before Mama got sick. Before success became the only language our family spoke. I'm sorry, she whispered. Maya, I'm so sorry. I became everything Mama hated, didn't I? The question hung in the air. Everyone waited for my answer. Yes, I said softly, because she deserved the truth. You did. We both watched her die slowly, losing pieces of herself to that disease. But you know what really killed her? The loneliness. Being surrounded by family who cared more about her estate than her stories. More about inheritance than her comfort. Vanessa's face crumpled completely. I can't lose this house. I can't. What will people think? And there was. Even in her most vulnerable moment, she cared about appearances. Not about me, not about our relationship, but about what the neighbors would say. What the country club friends would whisper. How it would look. That's your answer right there, I said, my heart breaking fresh. Even now you can't see past the surface. I'm not taking your house, Vanessa. I'm taking back my dignity. There's a difference. I walked toward the door again, but Jerome caught my arm. Where will you go? For the holidays, I mean. After all this. I smiled, surprising myself. Home. To my apartment with the broken elevator. I'll order takeout, watch old movies with Smokey, and be grateful for what actually matters. You should try it sometime. Can I come? He asked suddenly. I know I don't deserve it, but can I come? I studied his face. Saw genuine remorse there and something else. Exhaustion. Being the golden child was its own prison. You know where I live, I said finally. Doors open if you're ready to be real. The hospice opened in April, cherry blossoms blooming around the property that used to be Vanessa's pride. We named it Rose Haven after Mama. The grand dining room where I'd been humiliated now held patients' families, sharing meals and memories. The sunroom became a peaceful place for final conversations. The pool was filled in, replaced by gardens where patients could walk when they had strength. I ran into Vanessa at the grocery store in March. She was living in a smaller house now, one they actually owned, but that didn't impress anyone. She looked older, tired. We stood in the produce section, two sisters who'd become strangers. and neither of us knew what to say. "It's beautiful," she finally whispered. "What you did with the house. Mama would have loved it." "She would have," I agreed. "She always said houses should be homes, not trophies." Vanessa nodded, tears spilling over. "I've been in therapy, trying to understand why I became so cruel. Why your success threatened me so much that I had to tear you down." "And?" I asked, not ready to forgive but willing to listen. I was drowning in my own inadequacy. Everything I had was borrowed or given. Nothing was mine, truly mine. "You built yourself from nothing and it made me feel worthless." She wiped her eyes. "That doesn't excuse it. Nothing excuses it. But I'm trying to understand so I can be better." We stood there as shoppers flowed around us, two women unpacking decades of hurt in the frozen foods aisle. "I don't know if we can be sisters again," I said honestly. "But maybe someday we can be civil." "I'd like that," Vanessa said. "I'd really like that." I nodded and started to walk away, then turned back. "Vanessa, stop measuring your worth by other people's standards. Find out who you are when no one's watching. That's where real success lives." She smiled sadly. "That's very mama of you to say." "I know." Jerome came to Thanksgiving at my apartment that year. Just the two of us, takeout chicken, smoky on the couch. We talked for hours about our childhood, about mama, about the family we'd lost to image and expectation. He'd quit his tech job, started a non-profit helping first-generation students navigate college. He was happier, he said. Lighter. "You changed everything when you stood up," he told me over pumpkin pie from the grocery store. "You showed me it was possible to choose differently." "It cost me my family," I reminded him. "No," he corrected. "It cost you the illusion of family. What you have now, the hospice, your purpose, your peace, that's real. They were never going to give you that." He was right. The family I'd been desperate to impress, to belong to, had never really been mine. They'd loved a version of me that stayed small, stayed grateful, stayed beneath them. The real me, the strong me, the successful me, she threatened the entire structure. Dad sent a Christmas card. Just his signature, no message. I put it in a drawer and didn't overthink it. Some relationships are meant to fade, and that's okay. Not everything broken needs fixing. At Rose Haven, I met Mrs. Patterson in her final weeks. She held my hand as I administered her pain medication, her children and grandchildren surrounding her bed in the sunroom that used to be Vanessa's favorite room. "You're an angel," she whispered. "Building this place, giving us dignity." "My mama taught me," I said. "She said everyone deserves beauty at the end. Everyone deserves to matter." Mrs. Patterson smiled. "She raised you right then. She raised you absolutely right." I thought about that later, sitting in my office overlooking the gardens. Mama had raised both of us, but only one of us had been listening. Only one of us understood that the real inheritance wasn't property or money. It was values. Character. The courage to stand up and say, "I deserve better." A year after that Thanksgiving, I still live in my apartment. Still drive my old Honda. Still work night shifts at the hospital because healing people feeds my soul in ways money never could. But now when I look in the mirror, I see what Mama saw. A woman of substance, strength, and unwavering worth. The mansion I exposed wasn't just Vanessa's house. It was the false architecture of a family built on judgment instead of love. And watching it crumble was the most painful, necessary, liberating experience of my life. Some stories have happy endings. This one just has truth. And sometimes truth is enough. If you're living small to make others comfortable, if you're hiding your light to avoid their resentment, if you're swallowing your worth to keep the peace, stop. Stand up. Hand them the keys to the illusion and walk away. Your dignity is waiting. And it's worth more than any mansion ever could be. If this story resonated with you, hit that like button and subscribe. Share your own stories of standing up to family toxicity in the comments below. You're not alone and your story matters. Next week, we're diving into even more real-life family drama that'll blow your mind. Don't miss it.